Hello everybody, Nathaniel from RCInsight here, and today I am going to be reviewing the Sharper Image Space Challenge Maze Globe. This is a Perplexus style 3D marble maze slash puzzle. In this video, I am going to be giving my thoughts, my opinions, just breaking down the entire puzzle. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump straight into this. And I just want to start off here by saying I'm going to try and limit the Perplexus comparisons because this is what I would describe as a Perplexus adjacent puzzle. You know, the similarities are undeniable, but this is not a Perplexus ripoff. This is very much an original puzzle, an original design. It's high quality, it's made well, and I believe it deserves to stand on its own. So I will plan on doing another video in the future comparing the Sharper Image to Perplexus, but I really want this video to just focus on this Sharper Image puzzle. And there is only one Sharper Image 3D marble maze that has been made to date. I have a sneaking suspicion that the Discovery Kids Space Challenge Maze Globe, or whatever it's called, is also made by Sharper Image. It's just branded Discovery Kids. That's a discussion for a whole other video as well. So let's not waste any more time on that. We're going to be focusing on just what this puzzle has to offer. So let's start by just covering some of the basics. This is a course that has obstacles numbered 1 through 100. It has 3 checkpoints, or I guess a start plus 2 other official checkpoints. I think there's a few other places where you can get on the track pretty easily, but there are 2 official checkpoints where the track actually meets the outside of the sphere. The first one of these is down here at 36, and then the second one comes into play at 80. So roughly a third of the way through for both of them. The second one's a little more towards the end. And yeah, that's really the basics for this one. I think the size as well, it's very similar to the Perplexus original. That's the only comparison I'm going to make here. Just so you can get a sense of scale for this as well. So it's in a 1 to 100 maze with 3 different checkpoints. And yeah, that is kind of how this is. This variation, as you can see, is blue, dark gray, and white. I believe there is also a version that has red instead of the blue. That's the basics of this puzzle. So beyond that, let's stick to my normal format, and we're going to go into some of the unique obstacles. So there's actually quite a lot that caught my attention when I first played through this. There are several obstacles that really stood out to me, and so we're kind of going to walk through them somewhat in order. When it comes to unique obstacles, truly unique obstacles, there's only a few, and the first one here is this little cup drop section. And so it's actually right near that first checkpoint, and you run the marble across the track. You can actually see it. I'm going to demonstrate it. You can see it in my walkthrough as well. But I think demonstrating is the best way to show this off. So you run the marble across the track. So you run the marble, it drops in like that. This slides forward. You notice how that slides, and then you flip it around and it drops out like that. So a really interesting piece, I did that on purpose, by the way. A really interesting piece here that you can see is a combination like drop section, sliding, moving obstacle. Really, really cool. It stood out to me. I found that one really unique. Shortly thereafter, there's another unique obstacle, and that is this one here. It kind of looks like what I would consider a traditional butterfly section, but it's anything but. The marble comes up the edge here. You drop into this circle, and then you have to get it out and tilt it back down. It's quite a challenging maneuver. I think it's actually probably the most challenging maneuver in this maze or puzzle. And then it's followed up with another somewhat unique obstacle with this little like peg maze that you have to navigate. And you'll notice there's a few holes that you can fall through. One of them kind of acts as a shortcut, which I point out in my walkthrough. It drops you right down onto track that's about 15 steps further ahead. But you got this little pegboard maze to work through. So those are kind of 3 very unique obstacles that stood out to me. There are a few others here that are still somewhat interesting. There's this loop that it looks a lot more interesting than it is. It's really straightforward. You just kind of go through it like so. It's not hard at all. It's very easy. It looks cool. I was expecting a little bit more from it actually, but it looks cool. So yes, there's that loop there that is also a sort of unique obstacle. There is also this moving seesaw piece here. Another obstacle that's actually really simple. It's hard to mess up. But again, it caught my attention when I first saw it, and it is somewhat unique and different, even though it's really straightforward. And that's kind of it in terms of kind of obstacles or challenges here that I think are truly unique to this puzzle itself. But there's also a lot of other types of obstacles that this puzzle kind of puts its own flair on. And so I want to discuss that as well, because you have some very classic marble maze stuff going on here with the way that, you've got the different sections of track with two walls, and you've got some of these track pieces that are grooved where the marble runs along the middle. Some of that's very, very classic stuff for these types of puzzles, but there's also some stuff that has its own little flair. You'll notice here, this is a kind of what's really a one wall section, actually, because you've got this kind of trap in the middle that the marble will slide down and through the hole. There's other examples of stuff like this as well. You'll notice here there's that middle track section where, again, like the marble runs through the groove in the track, but it's done in a way that's just a little bit different, where it's on this bigger thin sheet of plastic, and it works its way through that, as opposed to being like this, where kind of its own standalone track. Here it's like carved out of like a bigger sheet of plastic. That's kind of interesting. Even things that I would describe as classic butterfly sections, like you can see here, it's just a little bit different with the way that the track is kind of grooved, rather than like fully indented. You can't see right through the other side like you can up there, for example. It's not like that. It's just kind of this kind of deep groove or indent. Another one up here where it's a little bit different. So putting their own flair on things. There's a few other sections as well. This just level track here is interesting because it's got those little bumps. I don't know how well you can see them, but they're kind of like speed bumps, if you will. And that just makes it, it just adds an extra little challenge there. And there's one real big thing that stands out to me in this puzzle, however, and it's that it really, really likes kind of cheeky one wall sections. And I'll give you an example right here. You'll see how you're coming around this corner, and so your momentum, normally you would want to stay along this back wall if there was, but you'll notice that the wall actually disappears there. So you kind of have to do this cheeky thing with momentum where you come around and then fling it towards the inside so that you don't fall off. And it does that in several places. There's another good example of it up here where you come around this corner and then the wall drops off, and again you kind of have to sling it around to that inside wall. This puzzle does that in several places. It's something that was really distinct that stood out to me. It's like they really liked doing that, and it's a fun obstacle. It's not something that's unheard of, but it is fun. And I think there's another example of it where I fell off earlier here again, where you have to hug the inside wall. Just hugging the inside wall is always an interesting way of doing those one wall sections that does make it a little bit more challenging. Lastly, in terms of obstacles and layout, this doesn't really have a lot of drop sections. There's only two that I know of, the one that I demonstrated earlier, and then there's another drop section somewhere closer towards the end. Yeah, right here. It's at around between 80 and 90. Those are the only two drop sections that I know of, but there's some other kind of interesting things here. You'll notice there's some big dips in the track, like this one. When you go back over it the other way, it's a big hump in the track. We've got another section like that as well here, where you've got that sort of waviness, and this also kind of has dead ends in a way that a lot of the Perplexuses don't. They're not like proper dead ends, but you're working through this obstacle here, and you have a way, if you go this way, it leads to a hole where you drop off, and if you go the other way, you kind of work your way through. Another section like that, again, a little closer to the end, is this one here, where you can, the track goes up through this way, but you actually can go straight through and fall off. So yeah, not really dead ends, but just there is kind of a little bit more flexibility to go off the beaten path, so to speak. It's not perfectly confined to your main route. There's a few places where you can kind of go another direction, and that leads to just a fall off point. And so you failed. But that also really stood out to me. So let's talk about the difficulty now. I was expecting this to be super easy, and I was pleasantly surprised by the challenge. It's not difficult per se, but since there's no other sharper image mazes to compare it to, I definitely do think that this is a bit of a step above the Perplexus original / beast when it comes to difficulty. That's the best kind of reference point I have, but it's definitely very similar to that, and I think it's meant to emulate that in a lot of ways. I'm going to do a comparison between the two in the future. So yes, it has a solid difficulty level, and the 3 checkpoints are nice, and they're placed well near some difficult obstacles so that it feels relatively forgiving. Definitely going start to finish without falling off here would be a quite a solid challenge, because there are some really unique obstacles. Might I add, by the way, the end, though it's not really difficult, you do kind of drop into this sphere, which is kind of neat and interesting and not very hard, but it's there. It's mostly an aesthetic thing, but yeah, I wanted to point that out. So yeah, the difficulty here is good. I've played through this many times now, and there's still some obstacles that I am struggling to do consistently. And there's just a lot of little tricky spots where there's a lot of room to make a mistake. You could do a whole bunch of obstacles in a row really well, and then you just hit a point where you mess up. And so yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the challenge this offers. It's nothing insane, it's nothing crazy like the Epic or the Death Star, but it's not a super easy challenge either. And then quality, because I think that's the other big question that's going to be looming over people's heads. What is the quality like? Well, I can say that it's a very good quality. It is a Perplexus level quality, again, because I don't have much else to base it off of. It is a Perplexus. It's better quality than some of the Perplexuses. It's very much like a mainline Perplexus series in terms of quality. It's got a relatively hard shell. I mean, you can kind of push it in a little bit, but you got to really push. It doesn't seem to be very prone to deforming. It's solid. It's not a soft shell by any means. Additionally, the plastic track feels very solid. It feels thick. It feels well made. The track all fits together neatly, and I did buy this used. It was unopened, but obviously third party because it's not for sale anymore. I've had no issues. All the track fits together nicely. There's no obstacles that seem to be broken or brittle or kind of weak and vulnerable. So in terms of quality of the build and design here, it's really solid. The overall puzzle and maze design I really like as well. Aside from the difficulty, I just like the way this plays. I like the obstacles, and just the design, the course design and layout are all really strong. And in general, this is a very fun challenge. And so I guess the last thing I want to say in this review to finish it off, if you are a Perplexus fan, is this worth buying? Is this going to be something that you get enjoyment out of? And I think absolutely yes, it is. It will fit in perfectly with your Perplexus collection. This is not just for diehard Perplexus fans who are looking for another one to add to their collection. Anyone who enjoys marble mazes and likes something that offers them a challenge but isn't way too difficult, this is going to be right up your alley. The quality is good. The design is good. It's a lot of fun to play. It offers you a good challenge, but it's forgiving. It has its own things that are unique and kind of define it, so it doesn't act like a Perplexus ripoff. It stands alone like its own puzzle, which is, why I've tried to review it as its own puzzle as much as I can without making those Perplexus comparisons, because I think it earns that. I think it deserves that recognition that it is its own thing. The time, the effort was put into making this distinct, and I really appreciate that. So I absolutely recommend this. I held off on buying it for many years because I thought it just wasn't going to be that good. It was going to be easy. It was going to be cheap. None of that turned out to be true. This is a very solid puzzle, and so if you're on the fence, if you've been thinking about this or you're just unsure, go ahead and buy it. You will not regret it. I've really enjoyed it. I've had a great experience playing through this, as well as I have the Discovery Kids one, which I will be doing a walkthrough and review for soon as well. So yes, this is a worthwhile purchase. I'm very happy that I eventually got it, thanks to those of you who kept commenting and telling me it was worthwhile, because it is. I'm going to leave that review here though, so thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, leave a like down below. It's a great way for you to show your support and let me know that you guys like this kind of content. Also comment below with your thoughts on this if you have it. What do you like? What don't you like? I'd love to know what you guys think about this puzzle. If you are new here and you have not subscribed to my channel already, please do go subscribe, because I am really the place on YouTube for anything 3D marble maze related, whether that be Perplexus or other similar things like this, Intrism, or even some knockoffs. I'm the place to be if you want 3D marble maze content. So if that interests you, subscribe so you do not miss my videos when they come out. With all that said, though, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.